Well, thank you guys for being here. A couple things I want to talk about. Your work is your brand, how to become the builder customers call again and again. So I'm going to talk about a couple of examples of what I've done and what my team has done to create the brand that we have. So I'm going to get right into it. So have you gotten the invite? That's one thing that we talk about on the podcast, Modern Craftsman Podcast. If you guys don't know, John and Tyler are here as well. Have you got the invite? We talk about being successful at a project. The client, midway through the project, is excited about the home, excited about the remodel, is excited to be working through the process. And oftentimes, I think as contractors, we start slipping towards the end. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to talk about my failures in communication. Some of the biggest failures I've had on my projects is the way we communicate. And I'm going to talk specifically about a job I'm working on right now. We were about 75% complete, and I got word through the grapevine that they were super happy with the project, they were super happy with the renovation, but they would score us poorly on communication. Now, I'm going to elaborate on that. We communicated to them daily what was going on through the use of our software, a daily log, photographs. We would talk through, kind of what happened on site, who was on site, and then every single week we'd send out an email recap. This is what we did this week. This is what we're forecasting for next week. Every day, every week. That's a lot of communication, right? So what we fail to recognize is that they don't like emails. They don't like software. They don't want to log into this stuff. They felt it was cold. And the entire sales process and beginning of construction process, I was very involved with them. And they felt as though I was removed and software replaced me. So that was a failure on our part in the sense that we never asked, how do you want to be communicated with? So I think that's really important is speaking to your client, talking about, hey, how do you want to be communicated with? Do you want to meet on site once a week? Do you want to have a phone call? Do you want to have a recap? Do you want a video conference? There's all these methods of communicating, and it's really important to understand what they want. Now, we made that change, and we followed up with a phone call immediately. Because this is our reputation. If we're going to score poorly on communication, I want the opportunity to fix it. But that didn't mean we didn't stop doing what we were doing with the daily and the weekly logs. That was part of our process. But understanding, how they want to be communicated with is going to create the successful venture. I'm going to switch gears a little bit about over-investing. So with one of our projects, you guys can read this, but I'm going to walk you through it. Early on in my career, I started as a carpenter. He alluded to that a moment ago. Started as a carpenter. It was me, then 2 people, then 3 people, and now 14, 15 people are involved in this company. And early on, I knew that what we were building and what we were renovating and the projects that we were working on were great, but they weren't what our ultimate goal was. So the example behind me says we have a $100,000 remodel. Maybe we're making $15,000 net profit on it. We would take that, and it wasn't really a formula saying, all right, let's take $15,000 and figure out how we divvy it up. But it was just, let's take the opportunity to exhaust all of our profits on this project to make it better so we can then market to the next level client. And then we would do that again and again and again. Now, the question I have for myself, and maybe you guys as well, when does that stop? Because now I can't just exhaust profits every single job until I'm building, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of projects. But I think it's really important, especially early on, is that you're open to over-investing. And what that does, there's a couple things here. You're marketing to a new market that you weren't previously marketing to. You're giving the client something more than they paid for. So now you're getting a really excited client because they didn't think they paid for that, and they're getting, a great, extraordinary experience and service, and you're getting the photos of something better. So it's a real win-win, except for the profit line, right? But you're looking at this as a longer-term investment. This is a long-term investment. It's not going to be a quick and dirty, hey, we make the profit, we move on. Figure out how you continue to market yourself up. Here's another example of over-investing. $170,000 kitchen project that we lost $45,000 on. That's more than we would have made on that project, and it's more than our overhead on that project. That means it's a direct negative hit to our company. Now, I'm going to get to the point where how do you afford that and all of that, because that was a question we got on our podcast, but let me walk you through the scenario. We take this smaller kitchen renovation project. We look at it as an opportunity, how can we expand our network of people? Now, I didn't take the time to introduce who we are as a builder, but we are a builder of project managers. We self-perform all our own carpentry. We also own a cabinet shop. So if we're putting cabinetry or millwork into your home, we're fabricating in our shop, except for this job. This job, we looked at it as, let's team up with a small shop, figure out how we can expand our bandwidth, so when we have more work than we can handle, we can micromanage or subcontract this cabinetry out. We worked with them. They delivered a product that was good. We put it in. It wasn't what we would have built. We looked at it and we considered, how do we make this how do we make this so we can be proud of it? What do we have to do? What do we have to change? How do we adapt this? And we looked at it. I met with Ken, is one of my lead cabinet maker. We went on site. The client, let me back up. The client was also upset because he knew that we didn't fabricate it in-house. And I was very open with that. He said, I paid for you guys to fabricate. That was why we hired you. And I explained why we subbed it out, and he was actually okay with it. He's like, all right, that makes sense. I thought you just farmed it out because you didn't want to. I'm like, no, we're genuinely trying to build a team of craftsmen, subs and internal. We spent 12 hours that day going through all the cabinetry, door by door, adjustment after adjustment. And at the end of the day, I looked at Ken, and I told him it would take 30 minutes to adjust the cabinetry, which I was very wrong. I wish he was standing here because he would be advocating for that. But at the end of the day, I looked at him, I said, can you look at this job and say, I'm proud of this? That's very simple. And he said, no. I'm like, then we're ripping it out. And he's like, well, I'm like, I understand we can't afford to do this, and I understand there's opportunity. It's going to be, the wide scale, the $1 million, the $10 things that you're going to change, right? But I looked at him and said, we need to make a commitment that we're going to make this right, no matter what. We have to make this right, because at the end of the day, it might be okay if we leave it, but what if it's not? I want to dig into that. You have two decisions, kind of, right? Could we have cleaned it up, made it passable to the homeowner? Probably. The homeowner would have been okay with it. All right, it is what it is, moving on. Probably wouldn't give us a bad review, would give us a neutral review. Wouldn't be a big deal to our anything, our company. Maybe we don't take photos of it, big deal, moving on, right? But what does that do for the culture of our company? It sets this precedence that what happens next time? Do we just let that slide too? And do we let the next thing slide and the next thing slide? And that leads to this slippery slope of mediocrity. And this is something that in our culture as a company is that we preach, is that you need to be proud of what you do, every single step. And if you're not proud and you don't think this is the best that you can do, step back and take the opportunity to do it again. And that's something that as a business owner, that's hard. That's financially impactful to our company. What do I do if I can't afford to do it or do it over? So we got this question on the Modern Craftsman podcast, and I answered it. Commit to the homeowner that you'll be back when you can afford to do it. We didn't do that right away. We mapped it out. We sat down in the shop. We figured out how we could squeeze it into our already busy schedule. We sat down with our subcontractors who we have long-standing relationships with. How can we make this work? Like, this is a team effort. So we look at it as an opportunity to bring more value. And now bringing this back to overinvesting, again, we could have walked away and called a spade and it would have been okay. We filmed it and we posted it online, and we talked about this very story on our Instagram. And we talked about it because it's important for our clients and people to understand the value of what we do, and the fact that one of the biggest questions people have with contractors is what happens when it goes wrong? Are they going to? Is it a tail light warranty? Are they walking away? Are they going to live up to my expectations? And what happens if they don't? And this is our way of showcasing the fact that we will do whatever it takes to live up to your expectations and hopefully exceed them. So we walk away with that job. Client is beyond happy. They've already referred us to multiple jobs. They've told this story to their friends, and it's a win for us rather than a neutral. Because I don't think it would have been a negative. It would have been more of a neutral. So that digs into social media, how I talked about we posted this video on social media. The way we use it, I think, has gained us the culture, the company, the clientele, and what we have today. And that is through transparency and honesty of what we do. And we are marketing to different people. So we're marketing to the end user, which is our client, our homeowners, and we're doing that in a manner where we can showcase the good work, showcase the pretty details, the things that people want to see, but elaborating on it by talking about why we did it this way, or the process that we took, or why it's more expensive, or really educating them as a consumer. But we're also marketing to the other tradesmen in efforts to hire. There's a couple things here where we're doing this for the industry more as well as our clientele, but we want to market and show that there is the opportunity to do better work And it doesn't mean that you have to spend more money or you have to buy nicer tools or nicer equipment. And understanding that right from the very beginning is that you need to understand what you're doing and being able to put the effort into it that you know you should be. And the way that we're portraying this is in hopes that people look at it and say, you know what, I see how they did it and I did it this way, I'm going to adapt. Not saying that we're doing it better, but every one of my guys is understood that they have to walk away and say, that is the very best I can do. We're not perfect. You're not going to do it perfect. But if you can say that's 100% of my effort, then we're golden. Let's keep moving. The next time, it's going to get incrementally better. And by sharing that, we're hoping that we're showing other tradesmen that let's take the opportunity. And I mean, from outside looking in at what other guys are doing on just social media and seeing some of these builds, you're seeing it. You're seeing everyone buy better tools. When, you know, the Festals, the Lamellos, like everyone's starting to realize that there's better out there and there's an opportunity to capitalize on that. Now, showcasing our team to push their level of effort. Now, this is interesting because when I hire people, there's always the conversation of, are you okay on camera? And no one has ever said, I'm cool. I'm good. I can be on camera, because I'm not. Despite being on it, what I see there is an opportunity to help people refine themselves by showcasing what they're doing, the good and the bad. And in the very beginning of working with these guys, they feel like they're under a microscope. Doug, right in front of me here, he films every single day on our job sites. Why? We can dig into that offline. But I think that what we're doing is we're showing these guys that, hey, you are under a microscope, not because you're doing a bad job, but because we know that you can increasingly get better, and we're going to help you get better. I have 25,000 photos in Dropbox of professionally shot stuff through Doug and our other photographers, and I scan every one of them. I look and I'm like, all right, I can't post that because this is done wrong. So we sit down and we talk. Like, nothing's all perfect, but we can learn from that by having that microscope or camera around. So we aim to showcase who we are, the good, the bad, reminding that we're human. But we can be better and we can increasingly get better. And it's just having the opportunity to see our work individually and as a team through the eyes of someone else. So in closing, we bring value to the client by being honest and transparent, but we also bring value to the industry and our culture by showcasing that transparency, showcasing that honesty, and working alongside individuals, companies, and clients as who we are and what we can be, and really bringing the value to the client and the result that they're hiring us for at any cost.